Step 5, create a schedule. And also don't get too attached to it, but create a schedule. You want to get a really good schedule. And by that, I mean, you want to find out like, all right, if you know your deliverable, if you need to deliver on X day, you need this much time for editing and post sound, et cetera, then maybe you can film in this window, or maybe your decision is already made for you. Maybe you know you can only film on certain days, or there's a very important event. Like, these are important things to know. So you sketch out your production schedule and your post-production schedule. Maybe you have constraints about when you have access to a crew or a gear, or your subject. So all of these things are really going to shape how you go about making your plan. Then when you know what days you're filming and what your resources are for that shoot, you want to know what you're going to film. Like, what do you have access to? You want to be, one of your pre-interview questions is like, tell me in as detailed a way as possible, like, what do you do literally from the moment you get up until you go to sleep? Like, tell me your day. And then you can listen sensitively for like, oh, that could be a really relevant visual opportunity. We should really be there for that. Know what time things happen. Figure out whether you're going to need a clearance or permission or waivers or a permit or all of these things. These all go into building a schedule. Step 6. This is where you get to envision and create your interview plan. So work with your theme and your narrative arc as your guide, and then craft your questions list for each subject, but group them by topic. You really want there to be like a strategy and a progression and a life to your interview itself. And I would absolutely encourage you to start out your interviews with some pretty basic stuff. Yes, it's easier to answer. You're warming up your subject, you're gaining rapport and trust, but you really also might need some of that building block fundamental information. Like, what is your name? Where do you live? How did you get to be where you are today? Like, why are we here? Like, ask that question. Like, why am I doing this video on you? Like, what is your story? You can't just jump straight into the like, how does it feel to blah, 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 blah. Like, you really need to lay the groundwork. And so it's great to be disciplined about creating a questions list. And then I can get a little obsessive with my questions lists because I create tables. And I have a table of questions, and on the left is like the category of like, where does this fit? Is this like biographical? Is this background? What is the category? What is the work each kind of category is doing? Okay, so that's one column. The second column is what's the question. And the third column is I actually bullet out like, what are my imagined answers? Like, what are my imagined essential pieces of content? This is not where you tell your subject what to say, but it's very good to go in with an idea of what's possible and then be sensitive to what is. And it's that shifting that's a real art, like shifting from what your expectations were to what's happening in front of you. That is that's a challenge, and it's always a challenge, but it's also the heart and soul of documentary work. And then don't share your questions list. Nothing good ever comes of sharing your questions list. So step 7 is, before you start filming, you're still in pre-production, revisit all of your budget and timeline assumptions now that you've done a lot of this pre-production. And you might find that things have had to shift, gotten more expensive, things are gonna take longer. It's just good to do like a quick check in there. And then step 8, film your film. Film the thing. And I will say, be really ready to adapt your plan and potentially throw your plan out in the middle of your shoot, because that does happen. This is a binder for a production that I just filmed last week, and I did really beautiful pre-production. I mean, this thing is like 29 pages long, and it was, I won't say it was useless, but it was whatever this film is going to be is not reflected in this document. So that happens. However, then you have this one, and this was for the film we did called The Promise. And this actually did end up being profoundly similar to what I envisioned. So I think pre-production will make you a much better director. It will make you a much better editor. It will save you a ton of money and time and heartache. And sometimes it doesn't work very well, or it doesn't work the way you expected it to. But it will always serve you well to be organized and clear in your thinking, and that will guide you to the best possible production.